Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to the Viseven webinar. Omnichannel boost HCP engagement and reduce cost per contact. Today, me and my colleague Leo Sanchez from Viseven US will talk about stumbling blocks on pharma clients' way to efficient omnichannel strategy. So let's meet the speakers. My name is Ruslana Magdych and I'm head of sales at Viseven Europe. And here with me today is Leonardo Sanchez, Business Development Manager from our US office. Hi, Leo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Great to hear. So shall we kick this off?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so here's a brief outline of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start off with just some common questions from pharma that asks themselves. Then we're going to dive deep into how Omnichannel can cut the cost per contact. Then we're going to break down exactly how Omnichannel can work by doing some segmentation of HCPs for a better understanding and how to engage with them, how to boost HCP engagement with personalization, and once we have the segmentation and the proper HCP engagement, how to build a personalized customer journey. So we decided to explore the more common questions that pharma companies encounter as they start the Omnichannel journey to their clients. And we're happy to share with you 3 short cases where we role-play the dialogues between pharma and Omnichannel experts to understand what these key problems are. So let's kind of meet our characters, and we had a little fun with this. Of course, we have our Sherlock, we have Watson, and then we have our hypothetical pharmaceutical company brand manager, at SFE manager, and digital excellence lead. Let's meet Sherlock first. He is the digital experience expert who, within his role at his pharma company, has to investigate the challenges that are facing and find opportunities to better customer engagement efficiency. Watson is the Omnichannel marketing expert within the agency company that has to propose feasible tactical solution in terms of Omnichannel engagement to cover the target audience needs and expectations. Then we have Hannah, David, and Julia, who are experts in our hypothetical pharmaceutical company, and they will be answering Sherlock and Watson's questions on communication channel coverage and cost, effectiveness of communication, customer engagement. Again, these are more common cases from pharma to an agency, and we would love to make sure as we're doing these little role-playing audios that you can think of other questions that you may have, and please always add that to our chat.
Yeah, we will first meet our Hannah, who is our brand manager. So let's listen to type 1.
What communication channels do you use for marketing campaigns?
Our main channel is face-to-face visits. Also, we use email newsletters to engage the doctors and provide web-triggered contents.
What part of your current database do you cover by face-to-face visits?
It is an expensive channel, so we need to prioritize visits to the doctor with the highest sales potential. Unfortunately, in average, we cover only up to 50% of our target audience by face-to-face visits.
So, Leo, am I right thinking that their biggest problem is that the channels they use are really expensive?
Yes, especially being face-to-face. But another big problem is that the coverage is low. So communication mix is built around face-to-face visits as the core channel, and it results in the cost per contact is high and the coverage is always limited. The next tape is a dialogue with a Salesforce efficiency manager, David. Let's listen to this tape.
How frequently do you usually communicate with your target audience?
To be honest, the frequency of communication in our company is strictly regulated by contact policy. Usually, it is 1 to 2 contacts per month. We use face-to-face visits and emails.
Okay, what is the desirable frequency of communication if a pharma company wants to promote RX drugs to doctors?
The more experience with brands, the more chances for doctors to remember our company and products. For not retailing campaigns, it would be great to provide 3-5 contacts per month with each target group of HCPs.
So, on top of what Hannah revealed, the new finding is that the frequency of communication in the company is strictly regulated by contact policy. And of course, the more touch points, the more chances to be remembered. On average, it takes 7+ touch points with a brand to even remember its name. We don't mean to be bombarding our audiences with too many messages, and may want to give them a choice to be able to pick up the way they want to communicate with our brands. If this is not as much face-to-face visits, it may well be webinars or portals, for instance, right?
Yeah. So I have a question for our audience. How many of you guys can relate to this problem? And if you can relate to this problem, we would love to have you, again, your questions or your comments written out into our chat or our question section, as we would love to engage as much as possible and relate these questions to your own real live instances.
Right. So in connection to the previous conversation, we got in touch with Julia, who is Digital Excellence Lead, to find out how customer engagement strategy is built. Let's listen to tape 3.
Pages of your products is well designed and structural. I see call to action buttons and forms for marketing qualified leads.
We have done a lot of work on this.
How do you attract a target audience to your website?
Our digital executives include the website link to any digital content that we develop in emails, webinars, digital sales materials, etc.
And do you create any combinations of digital channels to provide a logical customer journey from one piece of content to another?
No, we do not have a software to combine channel. We launch them separately.
So, as in most cases, the company has strong positioning and a lot of quality content to share, but they don't have the strategy of attracting the audiences to engage in a valuable way. So, as a summary, our potential customers are facing numerous omnichannel related needs and problems. First, face-to-face is a core communication channel, so as cost per contact is high. It is expensive and less in use now, taking in consideration the COVID restrictions as well. Number 2, since the face-to-face channel is prioritized, the coverage is limited. In cases where all stack is at face-to-face, coverage would always be limited for 2 reasons: cost and possibility to engage often enough. Number 3, communication model is insufficient to build a strong brand awareness. Face-to-face is a deep touch point, but we cannot use it too often. So we need to enrich the strategy with additional channels to make sure our target audience is exposed to our brand identity often enough to memorize its key messages. And finally, number 4, no strategy to leverage engagement across channels. With too few channels, we lack coverage. With too many, we lack focus and consistency. What if we allow our audience to choose from the available channels united under one coherent journey a la carte?
So to sum it up, here's a bit of the statistics to reinforce the message. Up to 74% of the database might not be covered by face-to-face visits. A study I recently read through a webinar says that HCPs find it less and less critical to meet with pharma sales reps when learning about new products, but they are being higher rates for more general medical websites. 5.4% low engagement rates by using only one digital marketing channel. Just using emails, or for some countries, WhatsApp messages as the only way to reach your target audience is not engaging nearly as much as it used to. And of course, 1 to 2 touch points per month on average means low frequency of communication. Remember, it takes an average of up to 7 touch points for the HCP to remember the name of the product. So, as much as pharma continues to rush to keep pace with customers' expectations in this digital world, they are actively digitalizing and introducing omnichannel models into their work. In 2020, for example, Pharma spent 66% of their marketing budget on digital tactics. But the real question is, how much of the budget really paid off? I ask our audience, have you seen a great return of investment in that money? So we talk again about what the omnichannel approach is. And the omnichannel builds upon the good old multi-channel approach, but with one extensive modification. In multi-channel, all channels are available for the customer, but are not connected. Whereas in the omnichannel, all channels are interconnected, thereby making the customer experience holistic. But what does that mean? In an ideal world, being able to create your content once and being able to publish everywhere would be the best solution, right? What about a way to change the channel of communication depending on how your HCP interacts with the previous message? This is all possible with the right strategy and tools. Ruslana, what is the first step in achieving this ideal solution?
Well, the first step to omnichannel excellence and basically any good customer engagement strategy is know your client. For this, we need to divide our database in meaningful segments based on their needs and preferences, and to calculate the potential power. So the first part of the segmentation is high-level understanding of potential versus loyalty to measure the efforts and predict the business impact. Next part of the segmentation is creating personas for deeper understanding of the segments and microsegments preferences, their motivation, journeys, and needs. So, on the first hand, we need to understand the power of the segment and possible impact on business through influencing and targeting the chosen segments as key. On the other hand, we dive deep into the peculiarity of each segment and microsegment to target more precisely with the channel type and key messages. Segmentation of the audience provides better understanding of the audience. Number of clusters helps to identify the number of unique communication strategies. Profiles of each healthcare professional help to customize customer journeys, content, and formatting. So first step is creation of basic model of segmentation to define potential versus loyalty and predict the impact. Second step is creation of dynamic segmentation, which is based on the available channels of communication and preferences. Then we are ready to define the behavioral segments that are based on the preferred styles of communication. All this is done even we are still on the conceptual stage of our omnichannel strategy in order to plan resources, budgets, and calculate potential return of investment.
And now that we've defined the segments, we want to engage with the channels that we're ready to offer. We can think about the cost per contact and how we can influence it. So let's talk about what you think you can do to reduce cost per contact. We see many pharma companies believe that providing a fewer number of face-to-face visits will reduce the cost per contact. Replacing half the rep visits with digital communication, cut the marketing budget and force marketeers to optimize channel in the mix in any way. So about our audience, how else do you believe you can reduce the cost per contact in this new digital world? As we can see here in the next slide, the cost per contact reduction can be achieved by focusing face-to-face visit channels for segmentations with the highest potential, and by that time, engaging low potential segments with digital channels. You can see here when doing our segmentation, we have our top part says high potential for green, middle potential is in blue, and low potential is in red. But also digital campaigns can be used to enhance communication, increase the number of touch points for highly potential segments, and decrease some part of face-to-face visits, maintaining the same level of engagement.
Yeah, next step towards higher healthcare professional engagement with omnichannel requires personalization. It is no use investing in all those channels and setting up the journeys if the content is not hitting the target. So first aspect is to understand the why behind everything what our audience is doing within their customer journey. What are the problems that our client is facing? What are the challenges? What content can bring them to value? We need to elaborate on those aspects on strategic level first before we even start building the infrastructure for the omnichannel. Based on the why behind our messages, we can plan the how by creating the logical customer journeys and constantly reviewing and measuring the impact. We need to set clear goals in terms of touch points number and expected response levels and constantly excel. Set up, measure, adapt, and on. As we combine field force driven and non-field force driven channels, it is essential to reinforce the former by the latter. Our rep needs to be knowledgeable about what interactions are happening with his accounts and what messages they are exposed to in order to reinforce the impact and complement in a meaningful way. These two aspects cannot be isolated. The messaging cannot be disconnected. Otherwise, we can do more harm than positive impact in the long run. Well, this is easy. Just deliver the right message within the right context, in the right time, through the right channel, to the right people, and that's it. So we have defined who are the right people to us. We define our key messages in our strategy and align those with the pains and needs of our audience. We have been measuring what channel resonates and what time is best to send the webinar invitations or rep-triggered emails. And we allowed our audience a wide choice of channels to engage with us. Voila, we have done everything right. Now it is a good time to think about how we constantly feed our beautifully set up infrastructure with quality, personalized content and don't spend all money of the world for that. For this, we need to consider reusing most of what we created and adapt it for the specific needs of varied segments accordingly. Most of the successful companies are setting their content tactics based on certain reuse and repurpose benchmarks and modular approach. It helps not only to cut costs on content production, but also streamline MLR process and lower time to market of the content.
But what about personalization? We want to make sure we personalize our way of communicating with our HCPs with the content, but everyone has a different view of what exactly personalization is. We want to make sure that we broaden this term and check off all of the following. Making sure that we use the customer's name and making sure that they don't feel like just like a number. But again, this isn't new. We just have to make sure we continue to do this. Using our analysis from step 1 of segmentation, we use the proper channels. Not everyone likes to read 100 emails every day or be bothered through a message on WhatsApp. When reaching our HCPs, make sure we're talking their language when it comes to their pain points and problems and needs. If they don't have a need or can't relate to our message will fall flat. And of course, making our message with the right tone. Now, this doesn't mean the volume of our voice, but also how our content is presented. Do we have the proper colors? Do we have the right images? Is the placement of our images in our text correct? So, how do we make sure that we can check all of the previous points from the previous slide? We will use all of our info from our segmentation analysis, as well as our previous history that we have of communication with our HCP, and we'll begin to create and group our HCPs into different personas that match each other's psychological types. Let's take a look at this example. Let's meet Ben and Jennifer. Both have different personas and needs. Ben, for example, is independent, has over 25 years experience, whereas Jennifer is a knowledge seeker with over 10 years experience. But where we need to really dig deeper is the following. Ben is not a big fan of interacting with pharma companies. He likes proof and evidence material and does not like to rush into trying new medications. Jennifer, on the other hand, prefers education modules offered by pharma, does not like talks and samples, and is an earlier adapter. We will, of course, have other HCPs that will fall into the Ben persona or Jennifer persona, but each will need to be reached slightly different in order to really have the most effective and cost reduction possible when reaching out to them. And here, let's look at the different options that we have. So not only do we have to determine what to reach them in terms of channels, but which content will be the best suited for Ben and Jennifer personas. We're having a more basic approach with simple text, infographics, or a website banner to going more advanced with content that can really get your HCP to be engaged. You can go from landing pages where you have a lot of content, email templates, e-detailing with interactive presentations, remote detailing where you send these presentations and you can get a lot of analysis from the HCP, mobile apps, e-learning, same thing as an e-detailing, right? We have a presentation, but we offer questions and a little bit of a test so that way we can understand which part the HCP understands and which part they're missing, surveys, and some VRAR. We have to know which content is best suited, and after we know this, the real fun begins with our journey.
Building the journey, the customer journey is easy now that you've done the segmentation and personas analysis, just like Leo told us, and you now have the vision on what can resonate and what are the channels to try. So now this is the time to plan and build the journey and then constantly measure the impact and analyze, so that next journey is even more efficient than the previous one. So in omnichannel marketing, there is a possibility to see the data from all marketing campaigns and channels for each customer in one place. This allows to connect channels into combinations and, as a result, increases the communication efficiency by gaining a synergistic effect. You may also need to collect the data from your marketing automation system in your CRM as well and visualize the whole flow and see all the touch points in the same place. This is how you can unite all of the three heroes of today's client story: Hannah, the brand manager, David, the SAP manager, and Julia, the digital excellence lead. Hannah will see what messages are popular. David will enable his field force team with other channels insights and empower them to be the orchestrators of client experience by connecting the dots. Julia will measure the channel's efficiency and plan what's next. There are plenty of information pretext for our communication with the audience. They may be promotional, medical, or scientific, and we are free to combine them as desired based on the segment, type, or persona's needs.
So let's look at a case study. In this case study, it was from our client that we worked with in France. In their CRM database, they had over 2,847 subscribers who are cardiologists. They used the Salesforce Marketing Cloud to reach out to their HCPs. But in early 2019, our client had developed a cardiology section in its HCP portal and wanted these cardiologists to register on this portal. Even though they had asked their field force team to encourage the HCPs to register, they were only able to register 232 in a 6-month period. So our task was to develop a customer journey using a digital campaign to increase these registrations on the HCP portal and gain an additional 300 new registrations in 2 weeks. So our course of action, of course, was to start off with analysis from the portal engagement using Adobe Analytics to see what the registration rates were with the current audience. Using this info, we decided that the best channels for our journey was to use email and SMS, but also to incorporate Einstein AI, which is within Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So let's look at our customer journey layout. We start off with the Einstein STO, again, within Salesforce. That way we can learn when to send out the emails. So there are up to 3 branches from the main one active depending on the HCP interacts on the main channel. For some of you, this makes sense, but it might seem a little bit complicated. So we're going to break this down just a little bit more. We can see here in our next slide that the main branch using the Einstein AI tool will learn exactly when is the right time to send our first email, email 1.1. We will then wait 2 days to see who clicked on the link that's embedded in that email. From here, we can break off into 2 different options. Well, option 1 is if the HCP did not click on the link, we move to email 1.2. Again, before sending it, we're going to use the Einstein to ensure we send the email at the right time. We again wait 2 days for the HCP to read and click. If they do not click on the link, then we'll go to another branch, which we'll talk about in the next slide. The second option is if the HCP did click on that email, but they did not, the journey will depend on actually if they registered on the portal or not. So if they did not register on the portal, we're going to move down to the second branch again. We're going to move over to email 2.1 to encourage the HCP to register. But if they did register from the first email, then they will be sent a bonus video, and then they will exit our customer journey. In our next slide, we'll talk about how we're changing our channel based off that first email. So if that first email, they had not clicked on the link that was embedded, again, as we said, we sent out 1.2 email. We wait 2 days. At this point, if they do click on that email, well, they register, they go all the way back to the top. We find out if they registered or not. If they did register, they get the bonus video. If they did not register, we send them one more message. But if they did not click on that second email, the 1.2, we're going to change the channel to an SMS first message. Again, we'll wait 2 days. We will do the same thing. If they registered, yes, they get the bonus video through SMS. If not, then we'll wait a day and they will exit out through the customer journey. So let's find out what the results were based off what we did for our client. So now here we go. We're going to talk about our 2-week campaign. We were actually able to get 296 new registrations on the portal, which of course is about 99% of our goal. The rate of registration increased 12 times, which was way more than it was in 2 weeks than the previous 6 months. The difference between the projected and actual outcome comprised of 4 registration cases. Overall, we saw a great success on the segmentation section, the analysis, the right content that was put in, and the customer journey using our Einstein AI.
Great, thanks for sharing, Leo. So if you'd like to hear more cases like this, right, you may get in touch with us and set up a 30-minute session to ask more specific questions and address your specific needs. We will be happy to give you free consultations on how the Omnichannel can work best for you in connection with your content strategy and within the existing ecosystem of tools and platforms. So don't hesitate to get in touch with us and let's discuss.
Sounds great. Yeah, anybody have any questions then?
I think we can take that offline actually. So
Perfect.
Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. That was good to have you as listeners, as audience, and thank you, Leo, for being a part of it.
Thank you very much, and everyone have a great afternoon.
Yeah, good evening to those ones who are in Europe. Thank you, and enjoy the day. Goodbye.